The forest was ancient, older than memory itself. Gigantic ferns whispered in the wind, and the air shimmered with the calls of unseen creatures. The canopy above was so thick that sunlight spilled through in golden streams, painting patches of warmth on the damp earth. From deep within the shadows came the slow, heavy rhythm of footsteps, deliberate, cautious, and filled with purpose. The Daspletosaurus emerged. His name was not known to the world, but to this land, he was a storm given flesh. Scars ran across his scaled muzzle, reminders of countless battles fought and survived. His eyes, burning amber, scanned the darkened glades. Every sound mattered: the chirp of a small reptile, the snap of a twig, the distant hiss of wind. He was hungry, and hunger in this age meant death for someone else. The forest trembled when he moved. A flock of small birds erupted from the trees, their wings flashing silver as they vanished into the fog. The Daspletosaurus tilted his head, tasting the air with his tongue. The scent of prey lingered, warm, alive, close. Somewhere near, a herd of Centrosaurus grazed in the morning mist. They were massive, horned herbivores, strong but blind in panic. He had hunted them before. He knew their weakness. He lowered his head and began to stalk, every step a careful whisper. The mud clung to his talons. His tail, long and heavy, swayed for balance. The forest narrowed around him, vines hanging like ghosts from the trees. The air grew thick, heavy with the tension of a predator's patience. Then, a sound. A young Centrosaurus separated from the herd, calling softly. Lost, vulnerable. The Daspletosaurus froze, his muscles tensing like drawn steel. His heart thudded once, deep and slow. Then he moved, fast. The forest exploded with motion as he lunged forward, breaking through the foliage in a thunder of weight and speed. The young herbivore screamed and ran, but it was too late. The predator's jaws clamped shut with a sound like snapping wood. Dust rose, leaves scattered, and the world fell silent again, except for the echo of his low, victorious growl. When it was over, he lifted his head, blood dark against his teeth, and gazed across the land. This was his world, his reign, his silence. But far away, carried faintly on the wind, came a sound he did not expect. The roar of another Daspletosaurus, a challenge, a shadow of himself. For the first time in a long while, the forest no longer felt his alone. The sun had begun its slow descent beyond the tree line, spilling fire through the leaves. Long shadows stretched across the ground, twisting like black rivers over moss and stone. The forest, moments ago alive with calls and movement, had gone still. Every creature sensed it. A storm was coming, not of weather, but of dominance. The Daspletosaurus stood beside the remains of his kill, muscles rippling beneath his ancient scales. His breath came in slow, steaming clouds, each one fading into the cool air. The young Centrosaurus lay torn and silent, a tribute to his power. Yet, as he fed, his instincts whispered unease. He was not alone. From the distant gloom, a faint vibration stirred the earth, a heavy, deliberate rhythm that matched his own. Thud, thud, thud. He froze, nostrils flaring. The scent hit him then, sharp, familiar, threatening. Another of his kind. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Birds scattered, small reptiles darted beneath roots, and even the wind withdrew. Through the veil of mist and shadow, the other Daspletosaurus emerged. Larger, younger, stronger looking, his scales unscarred, and his movements bold. His golden eyes burned with pride and hunger. His arrival was no accident. He had followed the kill, drawn by the scent of fresh blood. The older predator's tail swept the ground in a slow, warning arc. He lowered his head, emitting a deep growl that rolled like thunder across the clearing. The younger one responded with a roar that shattered the silence, a brutal, echoing challenge that vibrated through the trees. They circled each other, two titans born of hunger and fury. Every movement was calculated. Every breath carried the weight of survival. The older one had experience. He knew how to wait, how to read weakness. The younger had strength, raw, reckless, untested. The standoff broke in an instant. The young Daspletosaurus lunged, claws digging into the earth, jaws wide. The older one twisted aside, teeth grazing scales, their bodies colliding like crashing boulders. Trees snapped, ground tore, and a cloud of dirt and leaves rose into the air. The sounds of their roars merged into a single, monstrous cry, the voice of an ancient world. They fought not just for food, but for territory, dominance, existence itself. The older one struck first, ramming his skull into the rival's flank. A painful bellow followed, but the younger countered, sinking his teeth into the elder's shoulder. Blood sprayed across the ferns, glowing red in the fading sunlight. The air filled with the iron scent of it, sharp and electric. Minutes passed like hours. The forest became their arena, nature itself the silent witness to a clash millions of years in the making. Then, a moment of stillness. Both predators, exhausted, stared into each other's eyes. Pride against experience, strength against survival. With a final earth-shaking roar, the older Daspletosaurus lunged again. This time, not with fury, but precision. His jaws clamped down on the rival's neck. A single, brutal twist. And the young one stumbled back, roaring in pain, before retreating into the darkness of the trees. Silence returned slowly. The victor stood, chest heaving, blood staining his ancient hide. The forest began to breathe again. Distant insects resumed their song, and the last light of day flickered across the broken ground. He looked toward the horizon. Tonight, he had kept his throne. But deep inside, he knew. There would always be another challenger waiting, somewhere in the endless green of this savage world. The forest of shadows never allowed peace for long. The night fell heavy and strange over the ancient forest. Dark clouds gathered above the canopy, swallowing the stars, and the wind whispered a low, uneasy song through the trees. The Daspletosaurus, the scarred king of his domain, moved slowly through the undergrowth, his massive frame brushing against ferns and vines that had stood for centuries. The air tasted wrong. It was thick, hot, and heavy, filled with a scent that was not blood or prey, but ash. Beneath his clawed feet, the ground pulsed faintly, trembling in short, rhythmic bursts. The earth itself seemed to be alive and angry. He paused near a shallow river, the same one that had sustained him through drought and hunger. Steam rose from its surface now. The water hissed and bubbled like a boiling cauldron. He tilted his head, confused, releasing a deep growl that echoed off the rocks. Then came the first rumble. The forest shuddered. Birds exploded into the air, crying in panic. A distant ridge cracked open with a deep, thunderous roar. The Daspletosaurus raised his head, nostrils flaring. A red glow began to spread across the horizon. Faint at first, then brighter, until the sky itself seemed to burn. Fire was coming. Instinct screamed louder than thought. He turned away, his massive tail sweeping through bushes as he began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, his heavy feet shaking the forest floor. The rumbling grew into a roar that matched his own, and soon the earth beneath him split, sending fountains of molten rock and dust into the air. He had survived countless battles, but this was not an enemy he could fight. As he thundered through the forest, trees fell around him, ignited by flying embers. Smoke filled his lungs, thick and choking, and his vision blurred with ash. Somewhere in the chaos, a herd of hadrosaurs stampeded past, their cries desperate. The ground tilted and split, sending rivers of fire across the once green world. The Daspletosaurus pushed forward, muscles screaming, heart pounding. Every instinct told him to keep moving, to reach the lowlands beyond the ridge. There, the earth was cooler, the air cleaner. He crashed through a fallen tree, his claws sparking against stone, his eyes burning with fury and determination. Behind him, a wall of smoke rolled closer, black and suffocating. Ahead, a faint shimmer of moonlight broke through the chaos. Safety. But then, the ground betrayed him. A violent quake ripped through the forest, and the ground beneath his feet collapsed. The great predator roared as he tumbled down a slope of burning earth and shattered rock. He hit the bottom hard, his body bruised and bleeding. For a moment, he lay still, the firelight reflecting in his ancient eyes. He could end here, another relic lost to the fury of the world. But the Daspletosaurus did not die easily. With a growl that shook the air, he forced himself up, dragging his wounded body across the scorched ground. His claws dug deep into the soil as he climbed toward the faint light above. Each breath was agony, but each step was victory. When he finally emerged, the sky was a blazing red. Ash fell like black snow. The forest he had ruled for years was gone, reduced to smoke and ruin. Yet, amid the destruction, he stood tall, his silhouette framed by the fire. The world was changing. The old forest was dead. But the predator, the survivor, lived on. He raised his head and roared into the burning night, a sound that echoed across the wasteland. Not of fear, but of defiance. Even as the earth turned against him, the Daspel,